Welcome back to the Decarb Connect podcast. I have been enjoying a nice little break, a bit of a holiday, but I'm very excited to be on screen. Obviously, you're just hearing the audio, but I'm on screen with Liz Gilligan, who's CEO of Material Evolution. And anyone that listens to this podcast regularly will know that disruptor stories are really the ones that get me the most excited. You know, the kind of the stories and activities of those people that are pulling up new technologies, new materials, new ways of working that really could drive a significant change to the kind of amount of CO2, the amount of carbon that our heavy industries are emitting. So, Liz, quite a drum roll intro there. Why don't you tell us a bit about Material Evolution, but also what's brought you to this moment in time?
So for me, the climate crisis is terrifying. Like, it's a terrifying thing that kind of feels like there's nothing you can do about it. So instead of being terrified, I decided to get a PhD in cement, dug into the problem of emissions deeper, convinced my parents we'd convert our garage into a lab, so this could be my side hustle, and worked on the solution, or our solution, to the cement kind of issue, which is using geopolymer technology and machine learning algorithms to change the materials we make cement from to reduce emissions.
And from memory, I'm sure I remember this when we first had our chat. Your background originally was architecture, is that right?
Yeah, so I wanted to build the next cities that would change the world. But actually what I was obsessed with was what we make them from. Like, well, how do we choose materials? Why do we choose materials? So I worked at Foster and Partners for a bit, designed the concrete used on the Apple campus and things like that. Thought I knew cements and concretes. Obviously I had no idea, did my PhD in it and was like, oh, this is a whole new field. Like, this is kind of the way you can change and make a big difference. So that's how the company kind of started, was, can I make a difference? Can one person make a big difference? Can you convince other people to get excited about cement? It's probably not the sexiest of subjects, but can you get other people excited about it? Can we all make a difference? And how do we make that difference?
So the answer is yes, clearly, because as we were just saying before I hit record, you've now got a team of 15. You're permanently in a recruitment and additional finance mode. So you've obviously, the yes is yes, we can get people excited about this. So tell us a bit about the geopolymer concept. What does it mean? What is it that you guys are developing?
Yeah, so geopolymers are 3D nanostructures that kind of stack on top of each other, and it's basically a different way to make cement. Chemically different, kind of, it can be made of waste. So our current product is 95% waste. It saves 85% on CO2 emissions. So we're not firing our material. We don't use any heat. We're using different technologies to phase change our material. So basically we're making them more sticky by applying different technologies to them. So this allows us to access a wider variety of kind of industrial waste and use that at scale. So for me, that's the really exciting thing. Like, it's great that it works, but does it work at scale? How big can we go? How can we really solve this problem? For us, we want to reduce a gigaton of carbon by 5 years of production. So we want to be really aggressive about this. How do we do that? How do we really kind of make it so it's localized, so that you're not shipping waste around the world, so that you truly understand what your local commodity kind of industry can do for you, and then how you can make materials from that.
And the waste that you're repurposing, what are its characteristics that it needs to have for it to be, you know, like the right kind of product for you to work with?
Yeah, so it depends on kind of what geopolymer scaffold we're going to use. We can make it from aluminosilicates. We can do different ferrites and kind of iron-based ones. At the moment, we're focusing on metal and mining slags, so kind of the big industrial waste. There's 190 million tons in the UK alone of historical steel waste, which blows my mind. So there's a lot of it, and it's not used in kind of any real way. So can we look at it in a different way? Can we see that as a resource, and a great resource for the UK? To put it in context, the UK uses about 15 million tons of cement a year. So we've got quite a good supply with these raw materials.
And just for 100% clarity, like the point here is, this is not a technology that makes cement or concrete a bit better. This is a replacement material, which we'll come on to later, some of the additional kind of complexities that can bring with it. But your demonstration tech it really is that's the goal, isn't it? This isn't a sort of, oh, let's make things a bit better. It's a step change, a line in the sand, a new material to use in different concrete construction applications.
Yeah, so ours is a completely different step change. It's getting rid of ordinary Portland cement completely from concrete mixers. It gives us an 85% CO2 reduction, which is good, but for us, it's not good enough. We want to be carbon negative. So for us, that's the next stage, is be carbon negative. Like 85% is good, and it's really good, but it's not enough, and it won't be enough in the current condition we are with the climate crisis.
So let's take a step back. You said at the beginning that part of your journey to this point in time had been commandeering your parents' garage. So where have you come since then? Talk us through, if you can, paint a picture on our audio podcast of your demonstration technology. Where are you at the moment, and how has it evolved from that first garage version 1?
Yeah, so the garage there was 3 of us, so we've grown a little bit since then. We've scaled the technology so we can now produce 96 tons a day. So we're not just making it on the benchtop. We know that this scales, and it scales in a good way. We've got a great kind of team around us. We've hired some amazing people. It always makes me very happy that other people get excited about this, that we're not just a team of 3 nerds hanging out, we're a team of 15 now. So the kind of stages have been customer trials, kind of that scaling piece, just looking at how it works, like how do you scale this? Because I find a lot of technologies don't really think about it being like a customer-led problem. And for me, it is. There's like, it has to fit into the industry. It has to be seamless. It has to do all these things. Great if the science works, but if you don't understand how your customer makes things, you become a problem, another problem that they have to solve in this kind of process of making concrete. So we've been working really closely with customers on what they need, how they need it, why they use it that way. Can it be blown into silos? Can it not? Can it do this? Can it do that? Why does it not work? So we've kind of basically tried to break our product for the last year and make sure that it's really robust, that we know that they're going to add too much water to it. We know that they're going to do all of these things. And how do you make it so that it behaves and plays the same as OPC, but without the carbon reduction?
And the types of customers that you're working with at this early stage, like what sorts of organizations are they?
So they're big precast kind of companies making different products, so blocks, paving, things like that. We're really going for those kind of lower risk products. We understand that it's a huge step change that we're asking for, but with these lower risk products, you can build trust in the industry, and then you start to build up. We are developing our first ready mix product as well at the moment. So for us, we think that the standards, if you work them right, you can get them to work for you to allow you to do these things.
So you mentioned, I think you said, is it 96 tons a day at the moment that you can produce? What's the next step? Like, talk us through the kind of various levels of scale you need to get to before it's really like a kind of, commercial scale product. Where do you need to get to next?
So the next stage is we're looking to co-locate with a customer to produce 33,000 tons with them that they'll use for their products, while simultaneously building the bigger factory. So the bigger factory will look at producing 150,000 tons in the first year of its production.
And timeline for both of those things?
So we're looking to have the first one done by March, so the first stage by March, and then start building the other ones simultaneously. So I think that will probably take around 18 months with securing silicon and all of that fun stuff that comes with manufacturing.
Well, I guess that kind of neatly takes me into my next question. So we've talked a little bit about the material from waste that is integral to your process. I think you mentioned when we first spoken that you'd already moved, haven't you? You moved from the south of the UK up to the Midlands, and I believe, I'm trying to remember now our conversation, but I think you said that was a lot to do with the material that you needed and the waste that you needed. So just talk us through how you're integrating that waste and how different types of waste get integrated into this process too.
Yeah, so no, we moved the company from Devon, so sunny Devon, to Middlesbrough in October last year, because there is a old steelworks up here. So the steelworks has 60 million tons of waste on it. For us, the really interesting parts are these pieces that people discard. How do you really understand kind of how things are discarded? And can you use like an urban mining kind of approach to them? So can you understand them as like urban quarries? Can we mine them the same way we would mine a limestone? So can we understand their kind of mineralogy across those piles, how they've weathered, and then can we make them into cement? So for us, it's once you understand the data, you can interpret that and make it into cement. So for us, we're very data driven as a company. It's how do you collect data on a certain material, and then how can you then understand that and use our different kind of phase changing techniques to create that into a cement.
Okay. And then in practical terms, this waste material, is that free? I mean, do you have to buy it? How does that affect your kind of, the actual kind of cost model of what you're doing at the moment?
So at the moment, we pay for our waste. Some wastes are free, some are not. So depending on the source material and how consistent it is, some of them we pay for, some of them we don't. It's something we're working towards. The kind of techno-economic model is to be cheaper than OPC. Obviously, at the moment, we're making it in boutique batches, as we call it. But as we scale, that cost comes down rapidly. For us, we know that cost is king, that if we can't be cost comparative, it makes it a lot harder to scale in the industry. And we don't want that green premium to be an issue. At the moment, it is more expensive. Like, I'm not going to pretend it's not. We're making it in very small batches. But the goal is that we scale, and as we scale, the cost reductions come down, and with the hope that we will be cheaper than cement.
And then I'll come back in a moment, actually, to that kind of phase of investment, how you scale. But just while I'm thinking of it, I know one of the things that came up early in Decarb Connect's evolution was this: there can sometimes be a bit of a tension between a true disruptor, replacement technology, and what incumbent industries, how they're bringing their own product and activities to market. How have you experienced that? How have you come across the established industries in this space, and what's your experience of that been?
So we've been quite lucky, I think. We've kind of stayed away from anyone who makes cement because we don't align with that vision. It's a completely different technology. We want to not make cement the way that cement's made. So we've really spoken to the people who make concrete. So there's a lot of precasters in the UK. They are at varying scales. They don't make cement. So we help them be, as we call it, better bakers. So we make the flour. They're the good bakers. So we help them to get kind of a unique selling point in a market that is quite saturated. We help them to bring that R&D arm that maybe the big cement companies have, but not many concrete companies have. We allow them to be innovative. So for us, we found that everyone's pretty open. Like, I really think in the last 2 years, the word decarbonization, the word sustainability has become kind of a hot topic. It's no longer that you have to convince people that that's a thing. People want that. They win projects on that. It's really changed the conversation because we don't have to do the hard sell that, this should be an issue and that we should care about this. So I found it quite an open industry in terms of that change that we want to change, but it's slow. Like, let's not pretend. It's slow to get started, but I do think that this is the time for change. Like, this is where it's going to change, and it's in that amazing kind of tipping point where I think change is happening organically. Like, people are really pushing for it, and it's great to see customers demanding it. It's great to see kind of big incumbents demanding it from people who supply them. And I think that's where it changes, because the money is what's going to push it. However much I'd love to be the idealist, it's the money that's going to push it. If you can push that as how you win contracts, you change how the industry works.
Yeah, I also remember from when we spoke that one of the drivers that's very particular to construction materials for the pace of changes is also linked to standards and materials standards. Obviously, with a brand new kind of material like the one that you're developing, this must be an ongoing kind of piece of work to kind of work out how to work with those standards, how to get them changed. What's the story with that? What's your view and your perspective on material standards, and how can a true disruptor like you get to scale with what's in place at the moment?
So I think the standards are interesting, is the nice way to put it. I think that if we really want to change how things are done, then the standards have to change. I think we need standards because they give safety, they do all those things. But I think they need to become mechanical standards instead of prescriptive material standards. So do all the same testing, but do it in a different way. There's currently a PAS 8820 that we fit into, which is like an alkali activated cement standard, but it's not a full British standard. But there's just the speed at what they change standards that blows my mind. So I think it is 8500, which is the standard for ready mix cement. If I, correct me if I'm wrong. One of those numbers. It took them 16 years to change one kind of clause in it. And for me, like, blows my mind. Blows my mind that that's a success. And 16 years is too long. So for us, we're looking at how we can work with the standards, but also be disruptive in those and work with customers, because customers want it. There are customers who will work with it without the standards. So how do we work with standards, but also not let that slow innovation? So it's finding the right customers who understand what you're doing and then working with them to kind of realign those different things.
Okay, well, then let's come back to the scale up story. So where are you in terms of investment and in terms of like the phasing of your growth?
Yeah, so we are looking to do a fundraising round in the next couple of weeks, maybe month, maybe longer, who knows. But we are looking to start fundraising again to allow us to do those scale up pieces, to allow us to build that first of its kind facility and then start the ball rolling on that second factory. For us, kind of, it just makes logical sense. For us, we're very customer driven on how we can work with people. Then we're looking to kind of scale the staff and how we kind of look at spreading across Europe and the US.
And then next, essential hires. Yeah, tell us a bit about that. Like, what are the kinds of skills, the types of people that you really need?
Yeah, so we're looking, for me, it's people who really love it. Like, I think for me, that's the first thing we look for, is someone who just kind of loves and wants to change the world, change the planet, make a difference. Then we're looking from everyone from finance people to algorithm people to operatives to scientists. We have kind of that whole range of skills that we want. But the biggest thing being, are you passionate about changing something? Can you be part of this disruptive business? And we've been really lucky with kind of the people we've been able to attract and how kind of that team is really building. So it's a really exciting kind of time to join the company, I think, because we're at that stage where we're rapidly growing, like roles are becoming kind of more defined. There's that kind of really good upward motion. Because for me, I always want to promote from within. Like, if you want to do that, tell me, and we'll have a go. Let's have a play.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, an interesting stage you're at to join, isn't it? Because you could still have a role that fundamentally puts your fingerprints on the product and the evolution of the company, but you are joining something that has good foundations and a good kind of launch pad to grow from. So it's definitely an exciting point, I think, to join a company like yours. Mm-hmm. So round to my last question then. So I started this really by saying that you're the ultimate kind of disruptor, not looking for incremental change, but really looking for replacement material, a replacement opportunity to lower carbon. When you think about what you've learned so far, what would you say to other entrepreneurs or other ventures looking to disrupt, whether it's in steel, chem, cement? Just what general lessons do you think you've learned about that kind of true disruption, where you're not just tweaking, but you are creating a brand new path forward?
It's a really good question. I think it's finding that network, like finding the heroes in the industry is really important. Finding someone who just gets it and is going to do what it takes to get that across the line. I think those people are invaluable to companies. I also think finding the right people to join you as part of the journey. So who you hire is really important. People who get that it changes, it moves, it's an evolution, and that are willing to kind of take that jump with you. I also think not being too precious about your plans, that this is how it's going to work, or that you think you know how they buy and work. And learning that everyone's different, they all buy in different ways, that it's a bit more of a handshake kind of dealings, that everything's not going to be clean as you'd once hoped. You're going to have to kind of roll with the punches a bit more and just accept that sometimes we just go and do it on a handshake and deliver material anyway. I also think that what we learned was that by giving the product away, you create really strong relationships. So we've never charged anyone for a product yet, which seems counterintuitive to every startup because the goal is to get money in as quick as possible. So for us, we've always been like, oh, we won't charge you because we want a lasting relationship with you. We know it takes longer to get that through. Like, I don't want to work with you just on one product. I want to work with you for the next 10. So we've really kind of, maybe detrimental to the company, we've really been like, oh, we don't need your money for this. This is about working together. This is about creating relationships. This is about building those connections to last longer, which is kind of against everything every VC will tell you. But I believe that changes those relationships from being very transactional to being very much about how you disrupt together.
And a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's just have a think about that model then that you're mentioning, where right now your goal is to develop good partners, to develop those customer relationships. And one way of doing that has not to be charging, not to make it about the money at this very early stage. But clearly, when you're looking for your next round of investment, this is a topic of conversation, I'm sure. So what's the route to becoming a revenue generating startup?
Yeah. So we're pre-revenue still, and we could not be. We could have kind of got a couple $100,000 in the bank and kind of scaled it. But I believe that in a kind of industry built on relationships, we don't do that. That doesn't make sense. We want those bigger kind of contracts. So next year we're looking to make 9.5 million. But that is because we've waited, because we've built those lasting relationships. And I think anyone who works in this industry understands that it's really relationship driven. You're creating those longer lasting relationships. I don't want them just to buy one product from me. I want them to buy 10. And I want 10, 15, 20 years of kind of loyalty and partnerships with them. So I think that's for me where it makes sense. Obviously, from a venture capitalist fundraising point of view, everyone wants to know why you can't make money, and they assume it's because you can't. But I believe it's about those longer goals, those longer term relationships, which take time and involve you as a small startup, making that sacrifice that revenue is not the top priority.
Well, amazing. Really, great to hear where you've got to, which I love this image in my mind's eye of you just hands on hips telling your parents you're taking over the garage. And then now you've got, 15 people, you're 96 tons a day, you're on your way to thousands of tons a day. I mean, it's a really fascinating story. So we wish you all the best in this next funding round. And hopefully when you've secured that cash and ramped up to the next phase, we can have you back on. But thank you very much, Liz. Really good to have talked to you.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Many thanks for listening to the Decarb Connect podcast. We work with clients across the industrial sectors, specifically those who are tasked with decarbonising the most energy-intensive products and materials that we use every day. If you have an interest in learning more about either our members network, our reports, or our event series, do get in touch with us at decarbconnect.com. Or if you'd like to take part in the podcast, email me, alex@ac@decarbconnect.com. Thanks for listening.